Who is the face of basketball? The face of the NBA is LeBron James. The conversation does get interesting when you bring in Caitlin Clark. She got to get to the WNBA Finals and win a championship. I would argue that Caitlin Clark is pretty much right there now. The TV numbers will tell you. They drive the numbers, baby. I'm going to get to the basketball last night. Yeah, I am. You know how it went. Anyway, but before we do, an interesting conversation has developed. An interesting conversation about who is the most popular, who is the face of basketball. You know, in the NBA, the conversation is really kind of idiotic. Who's the face of the NBA? Who's going to be the face of the NBA? Who wants to be the face of the NBA? Like, I don't know. The face of the NBA is LeBron James. You can say whatever you'd like, but that's who the face of the NBA is. It's not Steph Curry. It's not Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's not Tyrese Halliburton. It's none of that. It's not. No. The face of the NBA is LeBron James. And until LeBron James leaves, it's going to continue to be that way. Why? Well, because, number one, he's been doing this a long time. Number two, how do you know who the face of the NBA is? You just watch ESPN and these shows, and they talk about the hits, which is LeBron James. And three, he's still playing in L.A. I mean, what are you talking about? But the conversation does get interesting when you bring in Caitlin Clark. I would argue this. I would argue Caitlin Clark is the most famous woman basketball player ever. Now, before you say duh, understand women's basketball did exist before Caitlin Clark. And there was a time back in 1975 where the Indiana Pacers brought a female player named Ann Myers, whose brother Dave was the Spider-Man, a great player with Bill Walton at UCLA. They brought Ann Myers in to actually try out for the Indiana Pacers, and this became massive news. This became like, holy shit. So remember, Reggie Miller's sister, you know what? Cheryl Miller, people used to make fun of Reggie saying, you're the worst Miller. So it did exist at a very high level, but never to this level. Why? Well, because of social media and because, well, frankly, we kind of like how she plays. However, the conversation of who is the face of basketball, that's international. You know, we all say, what's the most popular sport? Americans say, oh, man, it's football. Wait, whoa. It's soccer, European football. That's by far the most popular sport. So don't Americanize you. Jokic may be the face internationally. Here's Cowherd and Nick Wright talking about the face of the NBA.
You and I keep kind of upping the ante on where we think her star is going, and I've decided that it can't be upped high enough. So here's the question I have, as crazy as this sounds. Once Steph and LeBron retire, will there be an active American athlete that's not a quarterback that's more famous than her?
No. No, there won't.
I think she will be more famous than every baseball player she might already be. In this country, every hockey player, all of the U.S. men's national team, and every football player that isn't really Patrick Mahomes and maybe Lamar, Josh. Like, there's only a few. And I think she's already more famous than every NBA player but KD, Steph, and LeBron. And I don't see any of those guys catching her. I think she is a supernova of fame and talent.
Yeah, it said this, and it's not anti-Beyonce to say that Taylor Swift's tour changed the economy. It is not anti-Angel Reese of the WNBA to acknowledge she's the Tiger 20 years ago on the tour. Like, the ratings disappear. It's nothing against the WNBA. She literally is changing the entire league economy.
1,000%. But here's the deal. The most famous athlete, non-athletics famous, is Travis Kelce. Like, you know, if you're going to talk about NBA players, I would argue that Caitlin Clark is pretty much right there now. Maybe, as I said, LeBron James. But when you are dating the number one pop star in the world, your fame is far beyond anybody playing athletics, and that's what Travis Kelce is doing. Again, I'm not talking about television networks in the United States. I'm talking about internationally. I would argue Travis Kelce is the most famous athlete right now simply because of his association with Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's the biggest pop star. Taylor Swift sells out everything. Prices for Taylor Swift shows are through the roof, and Kelce is right there with her, and that gives him a far bigger reach than what does the NBA media or the United States sports media. Remember, TMZ and the like, they cater to an entire different audience. So I would argue, that Travis Kelce would be the most famous athlete. Now, does he have the best Q rating? No, because he, on his own team, in his sport, is second fiddle. Patrick Mahomes would have a bigger Q rating in terms of in his sport. But internationally, I would argue that people would know Travis Kelce before they know Patrick Mahomes. I would never argue that prior to Taylor Swift. Never, ever, ever. But Caitlin Clark has proven this, and this is a lot like Tiger Woods when he was the most famous athlete, and it was a lot like Muhammad Ali when he was the most famous athlete. They drive the numbers, baby. The TV numbers will tell you. See, in Muhammad Ali's case, it was the pay-per-view numbers. Muhammad Ali wasn't fighting. He wasn't fighting maybe once, I can't remember, on Wide World of Sports Saturday afternoon on ABC. No. He was going to Zaire where there were no taxes, where you would put it on pay-per-view. It was actually the first pay-per-view. Bar might get it, something like that. And he would sell that bad boy out. When anybody else tried, it was a dud. Tyson was kind of the same way. That's where I would put Caitlin Clark. I mean, if you think about it, NBA ratings were pretty good when Jordan was rolling, very good. But it wasn't just Jordan. Isaiah and the Pistons, the Bad Boys, Magic, and Bird, of course, that whole deal. They were rolling, that whole group. But there isn't anybody else. And this can be seen as a shot to Angel Reese. Angel Reese may be internet famous. She may be Twitter famous, X famous. But she ain't famous. Like, she ain't, whoa, wait a second. I'm coming from out of town. If I'm not an LSU fan or I'm not somebody that, no. I mean, the other night, Tuesday night, attendance, $5,000 to see Angel Reese, over $17,000 to see Caitlin Clark. I mean, it's that simple. And the TV ratings, 55% of the ratings went away when Caitlin Clark didn't play. So, in an era dominated by male athletes, can a female athlete like Caitlin Clark redefine the global face of basketball? I would say this. Yes. And I think the other day went a long way. I do. And what does the shift mean for women's and men's sports? Well, I think this. I think the shift really doesn't mean anything. I think it's already there. I think when you see the growth of volleyball, hell, my niece was calling yesterday. She was in Serbia, our homeland. United States, I think it was against Serbia for CBS Sport. I mean, it's on in prime time. It's on all the time, women's sports. That may not change for not in a long time. Softball booming on ESPN. Basketball, now particularly the WNBA, now that ESPN after this year won't have Major League Baseball, you're going to see an explosion because they're going to cover it. Nick Wright believes that Caitlin Clark will soon become the most famous women's basketball player. And maybe he's right. I believe she's second right now. I don't put Steph Curry in there right now. Now, maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I pay attention on a surface level. Kevin Durant must be famous because they keep talking about him at 36 years old playing on a team that was bad. Dak Prescott must be famous because every freaking time you turn on ESPN, even during the finals, even the day after the finals, on Greeny's show Get Up, a network that carried the previous night's NBA Finals, they were talking about Dak Prescott. Look, I don't know. Maybe, just maybe, she already is. Maybe she's not. But you know how you're going to find out? You're going to find out when in the middle of football season, when the WNBA is over, are they talking about Caitlin Clark? Because they're doing that with Dak Prescott. They're doing that with LeBron James. They're doing that with the Cowboys. I mean, they are. Steph Curry takes a dump, and it's in the middle of football season. You'll see it on ESPN. Certainly James takes a dump. Even when he's out of the playoffs, you see Dak Prescott, we're not even close to the start of the season. We've got a whole summer to go through, And the other day they're talking about how do we get Dak Prescott help? That's when you know you're famous here in the United States. Can she be sure? Will she be? I think Tuesday went a long way. I think Sophie Cunningham and her being the now enforcer and her being incredibly attractive, seemingly very cool, willing to put herself out there, has added to Caitlin Clark's brand. Scottie Pippen becoming a great second fiddle added to Michael Jordan's brand. What has to happen for Caitlin Clark to be the most famous basketball player? She got to get to the WNBA finals and win a championship. I mean, let's just be honest. We like the enforcer. We like Lexi Hall. She's pretty. We like Sophie Cunningham and now her story, and she's pretty. We like Caitlin Clark. She's a baller. She's unique. She's the Steph Curry of women's basketball. Pete Maravich, all that. But you got to win a title. So if they don't win a title, here's what to watch. If you want to think she's the most famous athlete. If they don't win a title during the NFL season, is ESPN, are others talking about that pickup that the Fever made to win a title like we would with LeBron's team, like we would with the Cowboys team? I don't know, but she's certainly on a path. And Tuesday night, that fight helped immensely. Enjoying the show? I would bet you are. Look, here's the deal. Make sure you head on over to YouTube.com. Make sure you go to YouTube.com/@OutKick/videos to like, comment, and subscribe. That way you'll never miss any of the action. Thank goodness for LaNorris Sellers, the South Carolina quarterback. Listen to this. He turned down how much money to transfer? Listen to this. Reportedly, 8 large. That ain't 800. That ain't 8,000. That ain't 80,000. That ain't 800,000. $8 million to transfer. LaNorris Sellers' decision to turn down multiple lucrative NIL transfer offers, including an alleged $8 million over 2 years, has surprised a lot of college football fans. It has, in an era where athletes are increasingly influenced by financial incentives. Does Sellers' choice to stay at a school that gave him a chance suggest a coming shift in the new era of college athletics? Here's what Norris Sellers told The Athletic following his son turning down this kind of cash. Hey, he was offered all kind of crazy numbers. I told him he could say, I'm going to stay or I'm going to go. My 2 cents, it was to get into college on a scholarship, play ball, get our degree, go on about our business. The NIL deal came later. We didn't come here to make money. We came here to get our education, play ball, and with schools calling, we're not going to jump ship because they're offering more that we were getting. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You're 19. You don't need $8 million. You're in a good spot. This is a dad. You know what? When LaNorris was asked about his decision not to transfer, he's very simple. I've been playing football my whole life for free. I built relationship here. My family's here. My brother's here. There's no reason for me to go someplace else and start over. I don't know if it's a trend, but my son's team at Illinois State has a kid named Chase Walker. Chase Walker came to Illinois State about 400 pounds. He was from Columbus, Ohio, which, for those of you that don't know, is where Ohio State University is. Never was offered a scholarship by Ohio State. My son saw potential in him, brought him over. Ryan Peden, the head coach, and the staff worked like crazy. Kid was 280 pounds. A couple years in, now after his sophomore year, he's first team All-Missouri Valley. At 6'10", 280 with touch and smarts, pretty hot prospect. Got offered as much as $800,000, turned it down to stay at Illinois State. Same thing with their point guard, Johnny Kitzinger. Turned it down to stay at Illinois State. Relationships do matter. They do. Do they matter enough to turn down $8 million? I don't know, man. And they don't matter to some guys. We've seen guys on their fourth school. I've always said, look, here's the deal. I don't know which way it would go. I try to figure out a way to play college basketball, make a lot of money, and end up graduating from Harvard if I could. That seems like the best of both worlds. But in my day, I don't think I'd have left Indiana for money. $8 million's a lot, though. I always admire people that can turn that down. I turned down $3.5 million, but it was over 7 years, $500,000 a year to go back to a $100,000 job at Bowling Green. I don't know if that was the brightest now that I'm 62, but hey, Never lost a moment's sleep. Good for Sellers and good for our friend Shane Beamer. All right. I don't know if you saw this, but the great Arnold Schwarzenegger took an absolute flamethrower to the idiots on The View, the wokest show. That show's got to go. And he didn't disappoint. When asked about his thoughts on immigrants coming to America, you could tell the hosts were not expecting Arnold to bring the fire like he did. In fact, I don't think you can see it, but one of the ladies, I think that Hostin lady, wanted him to shut up. He embarrassed these women. Here's Arnold.
So if you are an immigrant, you're an immigrant in this country. Yeah. Did you have a visceral reaction to what they're doing, what ICE is doing, when you see the videos of it?
Well, I tell you, you said that the immigrant, I'm so proud and happy that I was impressed by the American people like that. I mean, imagine I came over here with the age of 21, with absolutely nothing. And then to create a career like that. I mean, in no other country in the world could you do that. Yeah. Every single thing, if it's my bodybuilding career, if it's my acting career, becoming governor, the beautiful family that I've created, all of this is because of America.
That's true.
And so this is why I'm so happy to see firsthand that this is the greatest country in the world, and this is the land of opportunity.
Can I ask you, why doesn't that face of anal warts, Joy Behar, just shut up? I mean, nobody needs her to signify for her, but good for the Arnold. You know, Whoopi Goldberg, Sonny Hostin, they challenge his remarks, saying the majority of immigrants strive to do the right thing and statistically less likely to commit crimes than natural-born citizens. But once again, they weren't listening to the message that Arnold was giving, and that is, if you're fortunate enough to immigrate to this great country, you need to treat it with respect. With respect. Something they know nothing about. Here's more of Arnold.
The key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal. That is the important thing, you know. So you got to do things legal. And those people that are doing illegal things in America and that are foreigners, they are not smart. Because when you come to America, you're a guest. And you have to behave like a guest. Like when I go to someone's house and I'm a guest, then I will do everything I can to keep things clean and to make my bed and to do everything that is the right thing to do rather than committing a crime or being abusive or something like that. So that doesn't really work in this country. So I think the important thing is when you become an immigrant to think about, okay, I go to America because I want to use America for the great opportunities that America has in education, in jobs, creating a family, all of those kind of things. Then you have to think about, okay, if I get all of those things from America, then I have to give something back. You have a responsibility as an immigrant to give back to America and to pay back to America and to go and do something for your community for no money whatsoever. Give something back to after-school programs, Special Olympics, or whatever it is. Make this country a better place.
There you go. Kind of simple. Woke-a-dope me, baby. Woke-a-dope, woke-a-woke-a-dope. Clever immigrant evades Trump deportation efforts by not raping, by not murdering, by not stealing, or entering the country illegally. Isn't that amazing? Like most of our grandfathers, great-grandfathers came over this country, went to Ellis Island, and away they went. They did it legally. Not that hard. How about in May, there were 0 illegals entering the country, 60-some thousand a year ago. Man, thank God Donald Trump's the president when it comes to immigration. Next. 77,300,000 showed up for No Queen's Day, November 5th, 2024. That's the number of votes that Donald Trump got to keep this cackling moron out of office. Salute to us, the 77,300,000 of us that said no to the great American cackler. No, I say no. Next. Apple Store looters needed apples to feed their family. That is so good. That's a play on this moron AOC's supporting looting, saying people want to put bread on the table. It also suggests that this moron AOC doesn't understand that Apple stores don't serve apples. They are computer outlet stores. I think this is fantastic. I like clever stuff because I'm a clever guy. Hey, last thing. You know, as we head into the weekend, do yourself a favor. Do yourself a very simple favor and try to relax. I mean, this entire week has been filled with drama, hasn't it? I mean, drama after drama, starting with no Kings watches. And then, of course, we're into what's going to happen in Iran. And everybody went from a couple years ago being an infectious disease guy to being an economist to now people understand war like Eisenhower. I mean, do yourself a favor. Get off Twitter. Get off social media. Take a great picnic basket and a good dump. That's it. That solves everything. Everything goes back to 2.5 Men. 2.5 Men, Jake was sullen. Nobody understood why. They thought it was a breakup with a girlfriend. No. Berta, the housekeeper, said, drink this prune juice. Next thing you know, system flushed out. Everything relaxed. Relax this weekend. It's been a stressful week. Republicans against Democrats, Democrats marching. We got no kings, politicians posturing, people getting with Trump, without Trump. But it's beautiful out. It's supposed to be hot here in the Midwest. Turn on a sprinkler. Run through a sprinkler. Drink out of a hose. It ain't going to kill you. Take a good dump and get a picnic basket and sit outside and eat a bologna, cheese, and freaking mayonnaise and ketchup sandwich on Wonder Bread. How about that? Instead of worrying about all that's going on. Me? I'm playing in a golf tournament with my brother. We may drink too much. We may act out. We may argue. Who cares? But I tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to be a geopolitical scientist and tell you what the hell should or shouldn't be happening between Iran and Israel. I leave that to the experts. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody.